So I am Irena. I am coming originally from Ukraine. I was born and raised in Ukraine. I moved to the United States in 2001, where I lived for 14 years, tried it out, did not find myself feeling like home, moved back to Europe, tried it there for about almost 8 years, and I ended up returning here for some unforeseen circumstances with my two kids. And I am a relationship and a dating coach at the moment, and it is something that I had chosen to turn my passion into a business and helping others, because I've seen throughout my own personal journey of healing myself and struggling with forming healthy relationships, I had seen how unequipped most of us are to truly be in a relationship, in a healthy relationship. So I'm just extremely passionate to help people develop the skills needed and the tools needed to find the one, and not just to find the one, but also understand the compatibility concept and sustain the connection in the long term. Because the end goal is not the wedding, the end goal is long-term happiness for all of us. So I have a website. It's lovedandfulfilled.com. Very easily, I think, remembered. Everybody wishes to be loved and fulfilled. And this is essentially my goal, is to get people, men in particular, to get to the place of loved and fulfilled. I do primarily work with men, and there is actually a bit of a unique reason behind. I grew up myself with a very toxic mindset when it comes to my connections with men, and it took me a very long time and a very painful transformation journey to undo what was done to me and instilled into me by my own mom. And I've decided to shift. It's almost like I'm paying back for the pain I unintentionally had caused to men in my life before. And now I feel like I have a lot of love and a lot of compassion, a lot of tools, practical steps now to give them, to help them find the love.
So what are some of the ideals, Irena, that you felt were toxic that you had to maybe resolve within yourself and create new ideals that would be more beneficial to what you're looking for?
My biggest challenge was, I was married. The first time I got married, I was 23. I had a vision of a fairy tale. I had a beautiful dress. I had a lovely wedding. I had a wonderful, wonderful husband, first husband, who I loved dearly. 3 months later, I realized I had no idea how to actually be in a relationship, how to communicate what I need, how to communicate what my concerns are. And then I had in the back of my mind, there always was the voice of my mother, who would say, it's very harsh, but she would reiterate on a regular basis how useless idiots of men they are. And you need to watch out, because they're all useless idiots. This is the word she had used throughout my childhood. This is the way she treated my father. And this is what I've heard. I went into adulthood, unfortunately, internalizing this mindset. And I had attempted to build relationships using this as a belief, which obviously helped me successfully ruin multiple connections with great men. So, and this is probably one of the biggest toxic belief that I had to uproot and get rid of.
What was maybe the origins of your mother teaching that to you and saying that, hey, you need to start viewing men this way, and she was repeating it and instilling it in you?
Oh, I wouldn't even call it a teaching. It was essentially her own pain, talking from the heart, from her own heart. She went through childhood where she was abused repeatedly on a daily basis by her own father, severely abused, physically, emotionally. And this is what she carried into her life. She made a choice not to ever heal, and that's her choice. However, it's only later I realized what she was telling me. It was her unhealthy way of trying to protect me from men, because she got hurt by men. She did not know any better. And I had to make a choice. I have a daughter and I have a son. I have 2 kids. I had to make a choice to ensure that they do not continue carrying this toxic belief. I had to break the cycle.
I used to date a young lady, and she went through a divorce very young. She got married young, sorry. and she went through a divorce. And when I met her, it was after the divorce, a couple of years after. And what she did was she would shut down. She didn't want to ever be seen as vulnerable, which, as you and I know, is a very important aspect of dating, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And she decided that no, I don't want a man to see me that way because it's a weakness. I don't want to be weak. I have to be strong. I have to be all these other things. And one thing I was trying to get her to understand is strength shows up differently for other people. And one way where it's more universal across men and women is that to be vulnerable in front of someone shows courage and strength, because it takes strength to open up. Is that something that you had to realize when you were trying to separate yourself from what your mother was showing you, and then ultimately you want to find a more successful relationship?
Absolutely, 100%. This is, you're right on point there. Vulnerability for the longest time for me associated with being weak, and this is how I was raised. My parents grew up in a Soviet system, extremely brutal and harsh. All emotions were suppressed. I grew up suppressing everything except for just smiling out, just agree, respect the authority. There was no allowance of crying, and that had eventually brought me to the point where I've felt that portraying myself or making myself vulnerable, allowing myself to cry, or saying something that concerned me or something that hurt my feelings would make me look weak. And I did not want to be perceived weak. I wanted to be perceived strong. And I did really great job keeping up the facade of a strong Ukrainian woman for many years. I was exceptional at it. I was great, to the point that in my second marriage, when I finally started breaking down these beliefs and finally healing, my second husband, the first time I actually expressed it emotionally, he was shocked. He did not see me before that. That's how bad it was. Like, I never allowed anybody to see who I am. I kind of did not know who I am myself. It took me time to really come to terms to be authentic self. But this facade was there to protect me. I did not know any better. I took all my survival mechanisms, all my coping mechanisms that I had built, being a child, growing up with emotionally broken parents in a brutal system of the Soviet Union, and I kept applying them in adulthood. But guess what? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. If you keep applying the same beliefs, the same belief system over years and years, and you don't check in to evaluate whether it's serving or harming you, it can cause a lot of trouble.
I wonder how much of us accept that, because when we see our parents, and you and I pretty much around the same age, even though we grew up in different parts of the world, we see our parents who are exhibiting this type of behavior, but yet they're still married for a number of years, right? 20, 30, 40 years. And we're like, okay, how bad can that behavior be if their marriage is lasting the test of time? But what we don't understand is that we are trying to duplicate something that works for two people, but may not necessarily work for us. And plus, it's a different time, right? I'm pretty sure that you wouldn't want to be that type of woman to the men that you continue to be around, right?
Yes, yes. And I'd like to comment on something that you said, is that when we look at our parents or we look at another couple, whether it's different generation or even, the same age, we should absolutely not compare. However, in the case of our parents, just because the marriage, like my parents, they just celebrated 36 years together, okay? And me now being a coach and being healed, knowledgeable, being able to reflect, they should not be together. They should not be together. I've asked them, why are you still together? However, they've never taken an opportunity. It was too scary to heal. They just together because they're afraid to be apart. They're afraid of what happens, what's the unknown once you break it up. And this is their choice. And I no longer judge that. I understand that it's hard to overcome fears, but the duration of any relationship is not a testament for its success. Not at all. It's possible to have 3 years or 5 years, and then somehow something changes in life and you start taking different directions. And if you can make this separation amicable and agree, we tried, it worked, but for whatever reason, it doesn't work anymore. Let's take the good and go different ways. It's possible. I'm a huge proponent of this healthy approach, not till death do us part, but till we need to reevaluate our relationship to see if we're actually still working together as a unit.
I'm all for, I'm going to piggyback of what you just said in that last sentence. I'm all for the reevaluation. Let's say let's say you're married. Let's say you and I are married, right? Every 5 years, we renew our vows. We say, okay, let's reaffirm our commitment to each other, because it could be that 5 years ago, you were a different person. I was a different person. We both were in a different place in our life. 5 years from now, we can be two totally different people. Do
Absolutely.
we still want to blend our lives that way, right? 15 years from now, same thing. And one thing I will also join you in saying that 40 years on the surface looks amazing. Oh my God, you and Irena together for 40 years? Yeah, but you know what? After year 10, we hate each other. We're only doing this because a warm bed is better than a cold bed, right? There's some people with that mentality where I'd rather be with someone, even though maybe every other day, I don't really like that person. I'm feeling that I love them less. But for me to go back out there, it's kind of scary. It's unsure. I feel insecure of myself. Can I find another person that's going to put up with me? Can I find another person that I'm going to tolerate? When you're speaking to your men and your male clients, are you helping them to understand that it's okay to be afraid of the unknown, but maybe it might be better than staying in something that is toxic to you?
That is one of the first conversations we actually have on the first session. It's the fact that it is scary. And the only difference between me, who now is a relationship coaching after having undergone tons of challenges in relationship and having learned from them, the only difference is that I still have fears. I just move past them because I know that I had made it through the challenges before. So for somebody who is just about to venture out of their comfort zone, it can feel quite paralyzing. So this is the concept that needs to be, I believe, in a society in general, collectively, it should be highly promoted. Not the expensive wedding with a beautiful dress till death do us part thing, but this flexibility. Nothing in nature stays static, nothing. We have seasons, we have winter, we have summer. If you look at the nature, there's nothing that stagnates. What happens to this water that's stagnant water? It gets smelly and green, right? So this is the analogy I give to my clients when they are fearful about coming out of their comfort zone, right? Because the flowing water, the flowing energy brings fresh opportunities and open doors into your life. But it is a tough one. It's one of the toughest challenges to get people to step out of the comfort zone.
For those who are watching on YouTube, Facebook, and my social media, please stay tuned for more incredible interviews. Subscribe and like with my new best friend, Irena, and we will be back for more.